All right, founders, it is time for another pitch deck critique and review, and this time from a founder named Tristan. Appreciate Tristan sending me this deck. And his startup is called KickUp, and it says an interactive mobile app that inspires kids to play sports and unlock potential with world-class organizations. This startup, I believe, is trying to raise roughly 800K. It's another currency, so with the conversion, I believe it's about 800K, and this is pre-seed for those of you who are following along. And we are going to get into the review in just a moment. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang, seven-time funded founder with two exits. Fancy way of saying I failed a bunch of times, especially when raising early stage, pre-seed, seed funding. And that's to your benefit because I'm here to use videos like this and to share with you the mistakes that I've made so you can avoid some of the mistakes and not have the catastrophic failures that I've experienced. Not to say you're not going to make mistakes, we're going to try to make your life a little bit easier. I am the Chief Strategy Officer for startups.com. I've raised over $100 million from my startups, other startups, as well as startup funds. And I work with a team that has raised close to $1 billion or work with startups that have raised close to $1 billion. So we send out pitch decks all day, and that's what these critiques and reviews are all about, to help you out there understand how to adjust your pitch deck. A lot of resources. If you're with us from startups.com, thank you so much. Appreciate your support. If not, do the YouTube thing, like, comment, subscribe. That's always helpful, and we will get you your help. If you're interested in your own pitch deck review, stay till the end of this video, and I'll show you how to send me your pitch deck, and I will do one of these fancy videos just for you. Let's jump into this deck. So first off, we're looking at the cover page, and it says an interactive mobile app that inspires kids to play sports and unlock potential with world-class organizations. That's really wordy, so my advice is let's use the space. I like the fact that it's got a sub-headline that doesn't have some type of marketing, hypey, jargony little thing in here that confuses the investor. We know exactly what we're getting into, a mobile app. All mobile apps are interactive, so we can get rid of this, right? That inspires kids to play sports and unlock potential. You don't have to say with world-class organizations unless there is something that has to do with it, but that's pretty much straightforward. Now, here's the important thing. This is called a vitamin solution or a vitamin startup. It is not a painkiller or an antibiotic. Let me explain what that means. A vitamin startup is something that is nice to have, that can enhance people's lives, could make lots of money, but it's not a painkiller. It's not like aspirin that solves a major headache. People don't have a headache when it comes to sports. It's not compelling enough. Sports is a vitamin activity, and that's just the reality of it. You don't have to play sports. You don't have to go into junior leagues, play amateur sports, be a kid in sports. It is really good for you, and everybody should do it. Don't get me wrong, but it is considered a vitamin problem when it comes to investors. Painkiller problems are something that cost people money, and it's a massive headache to do. Like you're overpaying for taxis that are inconvenient, but you have to take taxis. That's a painkiller problem. The other problem, the last one that investors really love, is the antibiotic problem, where if you don't do it, you will die or you'll lose so much money that everything will crumble to the ground. It's an existential threat, such as cybersecurity, AI solving cybersecurity issues. It is an existential threat, and that's what a painkiller problem is. When you have a vitamin app, a vitamin problem and solution like this, you really have to bring it and justify to the investor why your user would be absolutely compelled to say, I want to do this. So immediately, when I classify this, and this is how you all need to know, this is how investors immediately take a look at stuff. A lot of people are focused on, hey, this is a painkiller or this is an antibiotic, but it's really a vitamin. And investors know this. Some investors specialize in consumer apps, and they know it's a vitamin or they know it's a painkiller at best, but they want to know right up front, and that's the mindset that they're going to be looking at your deck in. So you have to keep that in mind and empathize with the investor when building your pitch deck. And this is for all you out there that immediately you should be going to your startup, but you should be asking yourself, is this a vitamin, a painkiller, or an antibiotic? And be realistic about it. Do people really need it? Will they change their behaviors because it's so painful? Or is it just nice to have, which is going to require more customer acquisition? It's going to require changing their behaviors and a solid brand, all that good stuff. Now, the best part is if you actually get their behavior to change, for example, Liquid Death or Dollar Shave Club, that's a total vitamin solution. I don't have to order razors by mail. I don't have to drink water from a can, a cool looking can, but if you can change their behavior and you lock them into brand loyalty, well, then you're worth $1 billion, which both of them are. So keep this in mind. This is the mindset that I want you to think about, especially if you're a founder out there and you're looking at a similar type of pitch deck, especially early stage, pre-seed. Keep these things in mind. Let's keep looking. So we're looking at premier football clubs in the United Kingdom that they spend $1 billion annually, this is British pounds, I believe, to offer families inconsistent, exclusive, expensive youth programs. Here we go. So immediately, here's the first inconsistency that we have. This is premier football clubs. Soccer, in other words, is what we call it on our side of the pond. But football clubs, there's no mention of football clubs here. It's all with world-class organizations, kids to play sports and unlock potential. So immediately you've misled the investor. So either you're focusing on soccer, i.e. football, whatever you want to call it, put that in and explain on your cover slide, or make your problem expanded to sports clubs. All types of sports clubs. So now we've got a cognitive dissonance going on. There's a gap in terms of what we're communicating. But I'm going to focus on football clubs and just say, all right, on the cover, it should say an interactive mobile app that inspires kids to play football and unlock potential with football clubs, something like that. So premier football clubs. How many football clubs? So if these are your users, all right? Now, here's the key. Who are the users? If you have a user in mind, then you need to start with them. So I've got two options. Either these are the kids that are the users or the clubs that are the users. Which one is it? If it's kids, then say 100 million kids around the world overpay for inconsistent, exclusive, and expensive youth training programs. Or say 100 million kids can't afford to play football because it's expensive. Just be very straightforward. Not to mention you've got a spelling mistake here. Big no-no. Make sure that you watch for that when you're talking to investors. Now, if you say clubs, you want to start off with how many clubs? I don't know how many football clubs there are in the world. Let's say there's like 100. 100 football clubs spend $1 billion annually to market to get kids playing their sports. Is that a real problem? I don't think so. I think you're trying to approach it from the kid's perspective because we got a nice, good-looking kid right there. So just be straightforward and explain how many. Now, I like the fact that you got problem nice and small up here. That's a good use of your space, and that's the best practice. But say, how many users? So how many users want to play sports, but they can't because it's expensive? Now, there are more inconsistencies coming up where I'm worried this is a solution looking for a problem, and I'll explain why as I've already scanned the rest of this pitch deck. But let's go into the solution, and let's keep working all this together. So now we've got our mobile app saves sports clubs and families 50% of their youth training budget by delivering consistent, inclusive, and affordable programs to the world. Families and sports clubs do not have the same budget. You cannot conflate the two. Who are you solving for? Who is the user? I want you to pick one. If you said this is for clubs, sports clubs, now we basically have changed. We went back to sports clubs. What is it? Football or sports clubs? Pick a lane, stay in the lane. But if you said football clubs are overspending on youth training, is that a pain that they want to solve? Then your app can solve that and it can cut their training in half. Or is it that parents are overspending on sports clubs or participation with their kids in sports and you can cut their training by 50%? What is it? I'm confused at this point in time. Now, I understand you're delivering consistent, inclusive, and affordable programs to the world, but for who? What problem are you solving? This is very confusing, and it'll get even more confusing as we continue down. Spoiler alert, let's take a look at these other slides. So the market is that you've got UK market size for Kickbit is middle-class parents with smartphones that use additional football training services at 235 million British pounds. So now you've told me the user is middle-class parents. This is the user, if I'm not mistaken. This is the user. So now solve the problem for your user. If that's your market, solve the problem for the user. Because you don't mention the football clubs here. You don't mention the sports organizations, depending on what you want to focus on. So if that is the case, you need to go all the way back to the problem and say parents are spending way too much money to have their kids play football. And the solution is we can cut the football training by 50%. For parents, for families. How you get there, there are more questions. There are a lot of incongruencies. I understand the spirit of what this founder's trying, but we need to talk about it and we need to align. Get all the bowling balls, let's use another sport analogy, get all the bowling balls going down one lane. Now, let me make a comment on this. Global TAM, $100 billion across youth, sports tech, and e-learning. That is not your TAM. You're not doing e-learning. You're not doing sports tech. Right? You're not even doing all of youth sports. What is that? Is that for uniforms, training programs, lunch at McDonald's between games? You shouldn't even eat McDonald's anyway if you're training in sports. But what is all that? Soccer balls? Your TAM needs to be how many users you think. So how many parents? This is the reason I want to know how many parents are there that their kids play soccer, football, times what money that you think that you're going to make on an average annual basis equals your TAM. Now, 100 billion around the world, that is not your full TAM. So you need to calculate if every single parent in the world used our app, how much would we be making? And that should be in the billions. Sam, you're not telling us where you're going to focus. You're going to say you're focusing in Europe, but how many parents is that? And then Sam, this is what we can realistically make. What is this here? 78 million. You just told me your Sam is 235 million. In the UK, forget that. Just either say this is the UK, combine these two, EU and the UK, or just the UK, and then just tell us how much you're realistically going to make. There's a video on my website, on my YouTube channel, about how to do TAM SAM properly, and I want the founder to do this. Now, let me pause this just for a moment. I appreciate any founder that is courageous enough to send me their pitch deck. And I know, and I'm about to crack it open, I'm about to open a can of whoop on this pitch deck because I want you, the founder, to be better. And so you'd rather get this feedback from me. I've had founders come back to me and they have been very offended by my pitch deck critiques and reviews. And I hate to have to always disclaimer it, but you'd rather have me offend you so you can work on it than be offended by an investor or lose your shot with the investor. So take what I'm saying here, all of you founders out there, whoever get a pitch deck review from me, take it in the spirit which I'm giving. I am trying to help you become a better founder. And the best way for me to do that is to give you feedback just like an investor would walk through. I've seen some pretty horrible emails that investors have sent back to founders saying, your pitch deck is crap, you don't know what you're doing, stop bugging me, etc. You do not want that to happen to you because emotionally it sucks. So take my feedback once again, have a soft heart and a thick skin, some humility to take this feedback, and don't be offended because if I give you the problem and I rip apart your pitch deck, I'm also going to give you the solution. Hey, I'll never point out a problem unless I'm willing to be part of the solution. So that's what I'm doing with this pitch deck. And like I said, kudos to any founder willing to brave the gauntlet, come out, have their pitch deck ripped apart on the YouTubes for everybody to see. But to me, those are the founders. You are the type of founder that will eventually be successful if you stay consistently humble and open and coachable through the entire process of being a founder. So now let's look at the next really confusing thing here. So basically, this is a game. And actually, I like the concept and the idea of this being a game. I really do. Because here's what happens. And I've seen my kids play this. Players create a career. Okay, great. You start off as a free agent, so it's kind of like a virtual reality type thing. Plays games and levels up. So are you playing games on the app? And here's my question. How is this actually through real soccer? Is this just a video game, or do they play it and they have to go out and actually kick a ball around? You haven't explained that, because if I'm just watching someone on the screen or I'm playing a game just on the screen, how is that helping me become a better soccer player? Unless it's all about soccer intelligence. Sorry, football intelligence, for those of you on the other side of the pond. Please don't be offended. I'm just saying what comes to mind easily. So explain. Challenges in training, players post their play, receives feedback, and levels up. So what exactly is this? You haven't explained it. How does this unlock their potential? You haven't explained that. Unlocks and gets access. Through the store, players acquire additional games, sports gear, and exclusive events. All right, so this is gamification. So additional games, but we still haven't figured out what is a game. So I don't know what this is. And then you sign with a club. Player signs onto a club and becomes an e-player, gaining further engagement and loyalty to the club. So now I'm totally confused. Is this a marketing thing for clubs? Is this a training thing? If you're solving a problem for the parents, you don't have to have this other than more gamification that clubs would give them incentives. But if it is a solution for clubs to promote, then you want to focus on this and you want to eventually get there. And here is your fairy tale ending. So I'm going back right to the beginning, and I cannot stress this enough. You cannot walk down a tall fence on both sides. So founder, Tristan, out there, all the co-founder team, pick one. Are you solving the problem for the parents, or are you solving the problem for the club? And I understand that eventually you will help both, but you have to focus, because the investor is going to be thinking in their mind, I'm going to give you a pile of money and you're just going to split your attention. And it's kind of like having two big buckets and having a little cup of investor money, and you have to go to the tap, fill it, and pour one at a time in each bucket. The investor is going to be thinking to myself, my money is not going to be wisely used. So think about whose problem you're solving. And I'm going to lay out the options. I'm going to bifurcate this, give you a binary option. A, you solve for the football clubs. Football clubs spend so much money and they don't know how to engage fan base, youth, recruit players, build their brand. And they spend all this money. Well, we can cut that in half, or we have a better way of doing it for half the budget. And it solves the problem for the football club, which means your market is, if all the football clubs used you, then this is how much money that they would make, or that you would make, how much money they would spend and how much money you would make. That's your TAM. forget the parents in there, and then say, here's how it works. Kid signs up and becomes an e-player and starts playing games, and then they get access to tickets, memorabilia, other incentives. And then if they actually play, they can upload their stuff and join as an e-player in the club. And then later on, that works towards marketing, branding for the club. And guess what? In the future, people will say, I want to play for this club. And it's a lifetime engagement platform. Okay, option A. Option B, parents spend way too much money trying to help their kids with the skills. So we can cut that in 50%. We can cut that by half. What they do is download the app and they start doing like games and training drills, and they upload their progress and they win incentives, and then they show the clubs what they want to do and they get more incentives, and clubs probably aren't going to be totally involved. And then they join the local leagues and they are just better, and you can show the parents that kids can increase their performance based on the apps and the games that you have on your app. That's really what it comes down to. So that's your choice there. Now, both eventually help the kids, and eventually, if you're helping the kids, you help the clubs. If you're helping the clubs, you eventually help the kids. But focus, what is your beachhead? Where are you starting? Because an investor is going to want to know how their money is going to be spent for you to dominate that initial market. And right now, we're walking down this tall fence on both sides. It doesn't work. It's extremely painful. Painful for you, painful for the investor, painful for everybody involved. Now, here's the cool part about this. So through word of mouth, our MVP has acquired 700 users and 2,800 submissions. All right, fantastic. 700 users, 2,800 submissions. What are the users doing on your app? We haven't explained. Identified the problem. No, you haven't. You haven't identified the problem or focused the problem. Get rid of this. Built the MVP. So when you're doing a traction slide, I want to know the state of the product. So what exactly is the MVP? What are they doing with it? So state of the product. How many users? Great, 700 plus users. That is fantastic. So kudos to this team. I'd like to see a growth graph of how well it's going, because that is the final dimension on your traction slide. What's the growth? So we're growing X% week over week. Iterations, release VAR, further gameplay, kick-up store, 400 plus users, 1,000 submissions, club interest, seeking professional services. We have no idea what this means. Cohort partner joined Goldman Sachs National 10K SB cohort. I don't understand what that means. Now, here's the thing. All this is telling me that you've already pitched this and you've explained it in a way that somebody understands your user value proposition, your unique value proposition, mixing up my UVP acronyms. Tell me what they signed up for. What is it that got you 700 users? If you go back, they will leave clues. They will leave breadcrumbs. Did they sign up for improvement? Did they sign up for fan engagement? What are they signing up for? So go back to the drawing board, because if you already have traction, they will let you know what you have to put in your pitch deck, because that's the most powerful part about this. You already have 700 users, 2,800 submissions. You can say 700 users have already signed up to increase their soccer skills and cut their training program so they don't have to go and spend all this massive amounts of money. Is that the case? I don't know. Who's paying for it? Parents? Explain that to me. Because as I always say, if you get one user to be absolutely in love with your product and they'll pay $1, then you can make 1 million users pay you $1 million and you can be a unicorn. It's really what it boils down to. So tell me what's going on here. And once again, I have a feeling that there's more to the reality of this app. There are better things going on than this pitch deck is communicating, because this pitch deck is confusing. I don't know what's going on. It doesn't make sense. And the story in your head might make sense to you. And you might be thinking to yourself, but Ed, you don't understand. Oh, it's so simple. No, I don't understand. And that's your problem right there. If you have to be in my ear or over my shoulder and say, no, Ed, this is what we really mean, then your pitch deck is not good enough. There are crumbs here. There are clues that there might be something good here. I just haven't seen it yet. So you have to work on this narrative, figure out problem, solution, market, how it works, and be a lot more clear about it. Kick-Up is the best combination of consistent, inclusive, affordable soccer training programs. Again, you're saying consistent. We don't know if consistency is the problem. Inclusive, affordable. The only problem that you've addressed is this right here, affordable. Consistent? I don't understand what this means. Inclusive? You didn't tell me the problem is soccer is exclusive. So these are not relevant to me because you haven't put them in your pitch deck. So now let's look up consistent, inclusive, affordable. I don't even know what any of this means, and therefore your competition analysis doesn't work. Let's look up traditional programs, very coaching quality. So I'm thinking this is for the kids, focus only on elite, lacks continuity. I don't understand. Expensive, scholarship only, most expensive. Digital first. Now this is one major problem here. You have not explained how digital first translates to actual skills. I went all the way back to your how it works slide. I don't know how your platform, me looking at that, actually translates to me being a better soccer player. In fact, as an investor, I'm thinking to myself, isn't that the opposite way around? Because if you're just sitting on your app all day, you're not on the field kicking soccer balls. It's just what it boils down to. This is what I'm thinking. And you might be thinking, Ed, you're so dumb, you don't understand how it works. That's right. I'm the investor. I'm not a technical expert in this. You haven't explained this thing to me. And that's the reason there are all these gaps. And when there's a gap, I start filling it with information that I'm not sure, or I might be filling it with erroneous information that's working against you as the founder in de-risking the investment, improving me. You're the team to create this opportunity that I want to invest in. If you're the team and you can't create a compelling narrative and communicate it clearly and concisely, what's the point of me investing? Because I don't think you're going to be do that with other stakeholders, with customers, and future investors. That's the reason you have to pay attention and work on your pitch deck. We are the team. We're raising, $800,000 pre-seed round. And here's the thing. You don't have to put that. Just don't waste the space. You don't have to put, we are raising this, okay? Just take that out. Here's the team. I want a headline up at the top. Our team has X amount of years of experience. This is how we're good at. And then we have Tristan here, all right? So this is good, all right? I like the bullet points here. At least you got the bullet points, which is super nice. And you got titles in there. Okay, so this is a solid team slide. It's about 80% there. We just want a big headline telling us why you're the team that's going to win. Supporting players, advisors, potential staff. I'm just going to take for granted. This is really great. If you got soccer players on this who have worked for soccer clubs, we'll put those logos in because I'm sure people will recognize these soccer clubs. We are raising, $800,000 pre-seed to complete our mobile app, acquire 15,000 paying users. And tell me if they're paying, how much revenue is that going to be? Give me that explanation. Okay, so explain to me how much revenue in dollars, and then give me a time frame. So it should be, we are raising $800,000 to complete our mobile app, acquire 15,000 paying customers. That equates to X amount of revenue in 12 months. So we've got use of funds, key outcomes. Okay, so all these are going to be good. Do not talk about raising more capital. Just give us the highlights. You don't want to raise more capital, even though I know you're going to have to raise more capital, because you don't want investors to think you're just raising money to get to the next round. Show them the milestones so that they know that, hey, if all goes well, then we're not going to have to worry about it. We don't have to raise more capital. Or if all goes well, then we're going to raise more capital for growth and pour gasoline on the fire. So explain to them how much money that you think you are going to make. We anticipate being profitable within 36 months. I don't believe you, and that's why pre-seed, I just don't like the financial slides. And I know my colleagues will tell you differently, and that's how we teach it. But I'm going to leave this to you, but nobody believes your financial projections anyway because you're pre-seed. You're not even out there yet. Just explain that you've got a financial model later on that you can look at in due diligence. Unlocking potential anytime, anywhere for inquiries. Okay, that's great. Now we're missing a slide. I'm wondering if you out there can think of what is the slide that we're missing. We are missing the business model slide. I have no idea how you're going to charge money for this and what your revenue streams are. So I want a slide that clearly says we charge X per month, or we charge percentage transactions, or we're charging fees to the football club. All in all, I understand what you're trying to do. I like the concept of gamification, but I don't know what problem it solves. So go back and decide. You got a vitamin, problem, and solution. Decide, who are you solving the problem for? Is it the players or is it for the football clubs? And then work your way back from there and talk about how you solve it and explain very clearly how you solve the problem, explain your business model, and get a little tighter in terms of your narrative so you can show what you actually did to get those 700 users. Explain what your traction is and bring out the reality of your startup and make it the external perception. Make sure that those line up. Hopefully that's helpful. I've got another video that I'm going to put up on the screen that walks you through step by step. These are the slides you want to see, the pitch deck and the headlines. It's a new video that I created. I'm going to put it up on the screen. I want all of you to watch it. And then you can also watch a playlist with my other pitch deck critiques and reviews. If you're out there and you want a pitch deck critique and review, I now have a process. Leave me a comment. I'll explain to you. And then what will happen is I'm going to be asking you, did you watch this specific video? Because I want to critique pitch decks. I've done enough where pitch decks are coming in all willy-nilly. We need to increase the level of advice and explain to everybody exactly what format you need to give me so that I can give you a better pitch deck critique and review and make it worth your time and make it worth my time, because I have a waiting list. Founders are contacting me all the time. And then when I send back, and maybe this is you out there and you're sitting there kind of with some egg on your face. And I send back, did you follow this particular video with this format? And Founder goes, yeah. And you send me something completely opposite. Well, I know you did not pay attention. I'm not going to spend extra time with you. But if you earnestly try and improve your pitch deck before you send it to me, I will earnestly give you a better review. That is the process. So leave a comment. Let me know. Like I said, watch some of the videos I'm going to put on the screen. That's it for now. And once again, appreciation for Tristan and this founding team for having the courage to send me this deck. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you in the next pitch deck critique and review.